Now, he was once at the helm of Britain's biggest-selling newspaper and occupied one of David Cameron's most important roles. Today, though, Andy Coulson was jailed for 18 months after being convicted of phone hacking. The judge said hacking had caused serious distress to the victims and that Coulson should take the major share of the blame. Dominic Reynolds reports.
The days of photographers following Andy Coulson's orders are long gone. Today they wanted a shot of his downfall. The man who rose to the top in Fleet Street and then Downing Street was sent to jail today. 18 months for overseeing phone hacking at the News of the World. Mr Justice Saunders told the packed courtroom Mr Coulson has to take the major share of the blame for the phone hacking at the News of the World. There is ample evidence that it increased enormously while he was the editor. On the jury's verdict, he knew about it and encouraged it when he should have stopped it. Until he resigned, Coulson was in charge of the Prime Minister's communications, and it was a short soundbite from David Cameron today on what that sentence says about his judgment.
Well, what it says is that it's right that justice should be done and that no one is above the law, as I've always said.
There were lesser sentences for Coulson's colleagues. 6 months for ex-news editor Greg Miskew, the same for chief reporter Neville Thirlbeck, and suspended sentences for news editor James Weatherup and private investigator Glenn Mulcair. He's already been jailed for hacking once. What those people did when Millie Dowler was missing was unforgivable, according to the judge. They listened to a message which suggested she was alive, but they didn't tell the police. The judge said that the fact those journalists kept that voicemail to themselves showed that their true motivation was not to act in the best interests of a child, but to get credit for finding her, and thereby sell the maximum number of newspapers. And the Old Bailey heard that hacking was all about selling newspapers. News of the World journalists were prepared to break the law to keep the paper's competitive edge. For the people who were hacked, the length of the sentences is less important than the message they've sent.
I think in symbolic terms, the important thing is that we as a society have said this was wrong, it shouldn't have happened, it was against the law, and people are paying the penalty.
The judge said Coulson and his colleagues are distinguished journalists who didn't need to invade privacy to be successful. But their achievements, he said, will now count for nothing. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
Well, tonight we are joined by Jacqui Hames, a TV presenter who had her phone hacked. We're also joined tonight by Christine Hart, an author who once worked at the News of the World. Ladies, it's great to have you on the programme this evening. I mean, Jacqui, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you think justice has been done today?
I do, yes. I mean, it's a very profoundly sad day, isn't it? The fact that we've got an eminent journalist, really, and respected news editor being convicted of a criminal offence involving phone hacking is really quite a sobering thought. But I think it's an absolutely correct decision. We needed to expose what was going on, and there needed to be a serious message sent out here that how unacceptable this is.
And Christine, you used to work with Andy Coulson at the News of the World.
Yes.
Do you think this sentence is justified?
No, I think he's been made a scapegoat. I think when Glenn Mulcair was given his staff contract, there were other people that were running the newspaper. There's definitely been a cover-up that's gone on. There was another private investigator that was involved. Glenn Mulcair isn't actually a private investigator. He was stolen by somebody at the News of the World.
But Andy Coulson was found guilty in a court of law in this country. He has committed a crime. Why shouldn't he go to jail for that?
I think he should go to jail for it, but there are other people that are more guilty than he is.
So his sentence is justified?
In a way, it's a very long sentence considering Glenn Mulcair, who hacked the royal family, is just walked away. I mean, that was our royal family. I think it shows a lack of respect. The royal family were basically raped and, you know, people listening into their phone messages, and the person that did it just walks away and has got a book deal. What does that say for our respect of the royal family?
OK. Jacqui, there is a thought amongst there, which I'm sure Christine agrees with as well, and I'll come back to you, that this has been a trial that's taken the best part of a year. It has cost tens of millions of pounds. Andy Coulson's effectively been on trial for much longer than that. Has it really been worth it? I mean, as a victim of phone hacking, is this really what you wanted to see?
Well, if you told me that we'd be sitting here at this point, 3 years ago, I would have been absolutely astounded because we are finding out things almost on a daily basis about what went on, and it has been a very closed shop area. People don't talk about what has gone on, and Christine's one of the few journalists who's sort of been willing to talk about it. It's very difficult for police officers investigating something if you don't have any evidence. They can only go on what they've got, and it has taken a long time because although
a huge amount of money, and fundamentally, do you think, because you say message had to be sent forward, things had to be exposed, but really, has anything changed? What do you think?
I think it has. I think the sentence today is a huge shock and hopefully a wake-up call. I don't think for 1 minute that David Coulson and Neville Thirlbeck and their colleagues went into journalism in order to conduct their business in this way. They were gradually corrupted by businesses taking advantage of their abilities and saying, right, this is what you've got to do to get stories.
Will it ever happen again? What do you think?
Well, this is what we've got to learn, make sure that we learn the lessons from this. And unfortunately, after 70 years, 7 inquiries, we don't want to be back here again in a few years' time. We've got to have an independent overseeing of the press's self-regulation, and there's no other alternative. It's got to be an independent one because the press marking their own homework hasn't worked, and this is what the result is.
Jacqui Hames and Christine Hart, thank you very much for your thoughts tonight.